definitely think you're ready to apply. I'm giving you a total green light here. You've got, just the full package of what I would expect and want to see from an applicant. Well, welcome to another episode of Am I Ready? The video program where we look at an individual mapped subscriber and look at their account and see what's going on, and then I give them a judgment on my thoughts about their readiness for applications. This is we're taping this here in January of 22, and so we're going to be looking at an applicant that's potentially ready to apply in May, June of 22, and we'll see what we think. And so let me introduce to us here Anushka. Anushka, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Now tell us where you're calling from.
Yeah, so I'm calling from Columbus, Ohio. I'm currently a senior at The Ohio State University.
Great. And what's your major there?
I'm a neuroscience major.
Neuroscience. That's a very popular major these days.
Yeah, it's been like growing recently. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's an incredibly interesting field with a mixture of a lot of psychology and the mixture of, obviously biological systems and stuff. And so a lot of students really interested in that. Do you like studying the brain and the nervous system?
I do, yeah. I'm actually a big fan of like the psychology aspect of it. So yeah, in our major we can pick like a subset of neuroscience, and I'm a systems and behavioral specialty. So
great.
I love the psychology aspect.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you see yourself sort of maybe going into neurology or psychiatry or something like that?
Yeah, so I have shadowed a neurologist, and I actually really enjoyed it. So I'm definitely considering that as one of my specialties in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a very interesting field, clearly, and so that's great. Well, we're here today to talk about you, and we're not going to do it behind your back. We're going to do it in full view of your face and just let you know what's going on. And but we're going to look at your mapped account and kind of discover a little bit about who you are and what you've done, and then I'll make some judgments about what I think. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Good. So we've got your mapped account here, and of course the first thing that we see on the mapped account when we look at it is the dashboard, and in this case we're looking at the GPA graph. And what we see here is an AMCAS calculated GPA of 3.82 and a science GPA of 3.71. It's just really unfortunate, Anushka, that you can't be a better student in the classroom.
Yeah.
So you've done a great job here. You're obviously an excellent student, but what we see here is maybe a little bit of a rough start.
Yeah, so I kind of had just a rough transition into college, just like I think every individual does coming into college. So it took me a while to just kind of like figure that out and figure out how to study and things like that. But I think I was lucky to be able to figure it out so quickly. So I was able to pick myself back up.
You did an amazing job. If I look at this, basically the first year to year and a half, first year was kind of, okay, but not great. Beginning of the second year, fall 19, picked it way up, and then perfect since then.
Yeah, I also started commuting starting from my second year as well, just because I thought I needed to be closer to my family and just needed that extra support from them. And I think that's where I attribute a lot of my success as well.
That's great. Well, you've done a fantastic job. I mean, admissions committees are going to basically disregard that first year because it's clearly not indicative of who you are as a student, as a mature college student. Clearly the 4.0 is much more akin to who you are, and than the whatever that was before 3.3 or whatever, which is not a bad 3.3 is not a bad by any means a bad GPA, but you really did pick it up, and so that's awesome. So congrats on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure. While we're looking at numbers, let's go down and we see here that there's no MCAT score for you. Tell me about the MCAT and where you are on that.
Yeah, so I've actually been studying for it, like since May of last year, and I actually ended up taking it 2 weeks ago, so that's why there's not anything on there
Okay.
because it's already done.
Okay. All right. So took it
But
2 weeks ago. How'd it
Mhm.
go?
Yeah, I don't feel, like, too good about it, but I don't think, like, anyone feels good about it after they
Right.
take it, so
Right.
I'm just kind of, like, seeing what happens after I get a score back,
Sure. So a
but
couple
yeah.
more weeks. Yeah, you wait a
Mhm.
couple more weeks
Yeah.
and you'll know. So how are your practice exams going?
They were good, like above a 515, so that's
Okay.
what I'm, like,
Okay.
hoping for on the real
Uh-huh.
thing, but,
Uh-huh.
just in case I have, like, a plan to if it doesn't go as well as I wanted it to go, I have a plan
Hmm.
to retake in April, but, it's
Okay.
been hard to, like, find another test date, so I'm just kind
Sure.
of
And
waiting on the
those
score.
yeah, and those test dates, as we get closer to those test dates, often seats will open up because people
Mhm,
will
yeah,
figure out, oh, I'm not ready,
right.
I need more time or whatever. So
Mhm,
there will
yeah,
be, as you get so just keep watching it, and often, you'll be able to pick up a spot later if you need
yeah,
to. We're going to keep our fingers crossed that you don't need to do that. But if we
yeah,
take the practice exams for something, then my expectation would be that you're going to do, well on the MCAT, and a solid score certainly, and that would certainly be similar to what I would expect from somebody that's essentially making a 4.0 GPA. I mean, you've obviously got some intellectual power there, so that's
thank
a good
you.
thing. So if you're able to use that on an exam, then I would
Yeah,
expect that you're going to do fine. So that's
yeah.
good. So it looks like you've got the prerequisites done,
Mhm,
and all that. So let's look for a second at your activities, and we're going to go into the individual activities here and kind of look and see what we've got. So why don't you let's start from the top there, and even though these aren't sequential, let me see if I can sort this by yeah, okay, there we go. So it looks like you are an equestrian.
mhm, yes, I am.
So for those of us that don't know what an equestrian is, why don't you explain it to us?
So basically it's just a fancy word for horseback riding. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's what
Now,
I've been
did you do
doing.
like competitions and stuff, or
Yeah,
just
so I've been doing shows for quite a while now. And it's just something that I really enjoy and just kind of keeps me grounded during college and yeah, I really enjoy it.
yeah? Now, do you own a horse, or you just or no?
No, I don't. They're too expensive.
Yeah,
So
yeah, there and a lot of upkeep and stuff too, I'm
they
sure.
are,
So,
yeah.
yeah, good. So and then I see, some volunteer hours a couple years ago or a few years ago from 4 Paws for Ability. Tell me a
Mhm.
little bit about that. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, so basically, it's just an organization that helps provide and train service dogs for people who need them.
Mhm.
So we basically have a bunch of handlers and puppy raisers. So we raise puppies and train them and socialize them so that they can hopefully pass their evaluations one day for someone who needs them in the future.
Yeah, what a great opportunity to be
Yeah.
involved in training those dogs that are going to be so helpful for
Hmm.
their owners in the
Yeah.
future. That's awesome. I had a friend who did that, and she would
Yeah.
bring her dog to work, and it
Hmm.
would sit under her desk, and it was, kind of socializing the dog, and kind of getting them used to, going up and down stairs, and
Hmm.
lots of different things.
Yeah.
And I was always, fascinated with that as an activity. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds. Had you ever? And then I noticed that you were had a job at a pet shop.
Yep.
Did you ever think about going into veterinary medicine?
I have considered it, but I wanted to keep my animals and like my passion for loving animals is more of a hobby,
Yeah,
and work with people
yeah,
as
yeah,
my career. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Good. All right. So we also see on this list a SDU volunteer. Tell me about SDU.
Yeah, so a while ago, I volunteered in the surgical discharge unit of my local hospital, and that was kind
Mhm.
of more just accompanying patients and doing companionship as well as patient transport. So
Yeah.
transporting them out to their vehicles after like surgeries and stuff. So
Yeah. And was that interesting work volunteering for you?
it was, yeah, I got to hear a lot of, like, cool stories from people as we were just, like, waiting for their cars. I got to hear about, their experiences with medicine, like being patients, and
Yeah.
things like that. So it was awesome
Yeah.
to
Oh
talk to
yeah,
people.
that's awesome. Yeah,
Mhm,
good
yeah.
clinical activity there. Good. So we see shadowing here, some shadowing hours in 2019, right before the pandemic hit. Have you been continuing to do that some or no?
Yeah, so that's something that I've been, lucky to be able to do,
Hmm.
currently as well, and I've shadowed so many different specialties,
Oh,
so it's been
good.
fun getting to be in different departments and see, a bunch of doctors doing what they do, so
Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
it's great.
Yeah. It's great to have a wide variety of experiences and see
Mhm.
different doctors because what you probably saw was there's similarities,
Yeah.
to all of them, but they all have their own personality that they bring to the table. And there are
Mhm.
other, depending on if they're in the hospital or if they're in a clinic or a private practice or whatever. Have you kind of seen those differences too?
Yeah, so I've, actually been mostly in the emergency department is where I shadow a lot, just
Hmm.
because that's where I used to work. So I have a lot of connections there, and so I spend most of my time there. But I also have shadowed general surgery, neurology, cardiology,
Oh,
and
wow.
pulmonology as well. So
Yeah.
it's been nice getting to see kind of like the procedural stuff as well as the
Yeah.
not
Sure.
procedural stuff as well, and just kind of figuring out what I like more. So.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. Very, very cool. More horseback riding stuff. Looks like a community service at I guess, a food pantry or a resource
Mhm.
pantry. Is
Yep.
am I interpreting that correctly? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. A tutor for organic chemistry. Well, bless your heart.
Yeah, it's actually one of the subjects that I actually really enjoy
Oh,
despite it being
nice.
hard.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
trying to pass on what I know to other students and help
Oh,
them out
that's
in any
great.
way that I
You know,
can.
I have found organic chemistry to be people either hate it or they love it. There's very few in the middle. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Good. All right. I think I actually missed something in there. You are now you're still a scribe or no?
No, I'm not anymore. Just because since COVID hit, they kind
Uh
of like
huh.
cut the program. So it wasn't my
Right.
decision in like leaving. I wish I could have stayed there. That would have been
Right.
great. But
Right.
unfortunately the program had to go. So that's when I stopped doing it.
How did you enjoy that?
Oh, it was awesome. I actually, the doctors there kind of had us more involved as more than like other scribe positions usually do, I think. So we were allowed to, even during like COVID, we were allowed to come in and to the patient rooms as long as they tested COVID negative.
Hmm.
And we just kind of observed as much as we could. And we're just lucky because the physicians there also were a big part of like what they like to do was teaching. So
Mm-hmm.
they allowed us to ask as many questions as we wanted, and we just learned as much as we could because they knew that it was like a learning opportunity for us as
Yeah.
well. So that was pretty awesome of them.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah.
It's interesting in scribing. Some doctors they act as if you're not even there. You know,
Yeah.
they just are assuming that you're taking everything down and all that stuff. And then others, like you're describing, are very active and hey,
Mhm.
ask me questions and stuff like that. And so good that you got those kind of doctors. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of doctors that were like kind of teaching us how to read like EKGs and like
Hmm.
kind of teaching us how to do differential diagnoses. And it was just kind of fun to learn like the small stuff and how, how to do those. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, good for you. That's great. Um, Text line, a crisis text line that's been very that's been not unusual in the
Mhm.
pandemic where you can do it not be present but do it remotely or whatever. And
Mhm.
so I'm sure you've had a lot of very interesting experiences with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right. Hospice, another thing that's can be difficult
Mhm.
emotionally, but a great experience. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've kind of been doing that's something that I picked up after my scribe job, and it's just been amazing, like being able to communicate or like have conversations with like some of the hospice patients, and just just talking with them like human to human and having that conversation. And I've just heard like amazing stories from them, and it's
Yeah,
just really shows you like the power of listening, because
yeah.
most of the times they tell me that they don't really have people that come visit them,
Mm,
and they just like really need that
yeah,
socialization. So
yeah.
it's
Sure,
been
sure.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. And then we have a free clinic volunteer that you have done. Looks like last summer, maybe.
Yeah, that's something that I recently started, and I'm still doing it now.
Mm-hmm.
So we have like different roles in the free clinic. There's a scribe role there as well. But mostly what we do is just kind of guide patients throughout the free clinic,
Mm-hmm.
starting from like registration, and if they have like labs or anything that need to be done in the free clinic as well, we just kind of guide them to the lab, and have that blood work or anything like that taken care of,
Mm-hmm.
as well as answering questions about like prescriptions, or where to go get that, or just anything along the lines of that as
Yeah.
well. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good. Now you looks like you've done a pretty good amount of research. Tell me about your research activities.
Yeah. So, that's something that I started last fall, and I do research at a lab at OSU,
Hmm.
and we research on how mindfulness and meditation affect cognitive abilities. So,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm. Wow, that's interesting.
yeah.
So everything that I've read about mindfulness suggests that it has significant effects, positive effects on cognition.
Yes, it
So,
does.
so
Yeah.
that's so you would agree with that, huh?
Yeah, so I've gotten to do like stuff with the data that we collect, as well
Mm-hmm.
as administer the cognitive tasks before and
Uh-huh.
after
Uh-huh.
the meditation sessions as well. So it's kind of interesting to see the data and how like the cognitive abilities improve there as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's awesome. What a cool thing that you're doing there. Now, is that
yeah.
part of uh, uh, your curriculum, or is that just something you're doing outside of the curriculum, or what?
Yeah, that's something that I chose to do,
Hmm.
just because I was super interested in neuroscience research,
Sure.
and I know most of the research just involves like bench work and working with animals. So instead of that, I just wanted to get involved with more of the clinical side.
Yeah.
So that's why I chose to go into the lab that I'm in now.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. 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 All right, let's take a second to just glance at your school list. So you have currently 37 schools. I'm guessing you're not going to apply to all of those.
No, I'm definitely going to cut it down a lot. So yeah,
That'd be a little pricey, but
yeah, it would be.
right. How many schools are you sort of thinking?
20 to 25 max.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
definitely going to cut it
That's
down.
pretty typical these days, and looks like you have a mixture of MD with also some DO schools in there as well.
Yeah.
Good. Now, what do what's going to make this decision for you in terms of schools that you are going to apply to, as opposed to some that are on this list that you end up not applying to? What's going to make that decision for you?
Yeah, so definitely location is one of my biggest concerns, just because I don't really have a lot of family in the United States. So I
Hmm.
kind of want to stay as close to my family's kind of like settled in here in Ohio. So
Right,
as
right.
close to the East Coast as possible,
Hmm.
is one of them. And I haven't really gone through the mission statements and kind of what each school is looking for. So just
Right.
kind of narrowing it down that way,
Yeah.
just because I want to be at a school that embraces the same, kind of values and beliefs as me,
Sure.
and where I fit in
Yeah.
into wanting to be a physician. So definitely going through the mission statements as well as
Yeah.
the two main ways I'm going to narrow it down.
Yeah, that's a great thing to do. And one of the things that I would really suggest is, and I do this for many students, is
Hmm.
you've got several months between now and June when you're going to be
Yeah.
applying. And what are the things that I would suggest is just on a weekly basis, if you'll just take one school a week
Hmm.
or two schools a week and really dive into that school and
Okay.
look at all their stats and look at their information on the MSAR, go into their
Hmm.
website. And I'm not talking about just the admissions office website. I'm talking about get down and dirty in that website.
Yeah.
And there's going to be stuff that you're not going to be able to get to because it's password protected, but just poke around, see
Yeah.
what they're doing, see what it's all about, see what you can find, and look at student stuff and look at where the faculty coming from and
Hmm.
what they're interested in, and I think that that's a really good way to sort of get a sense of, is this school somewhere where I would be comfortable? Is
Hmm.
this a school
Yeah.
that I would really be able to kind of connect with in a really fundamental way to feel good about going here?
Hmm.
So that way you're not sitting in the end of April thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know which of these schools,
Yeah.
take notes, and you can take notes in Mapped, you can take notes on a spiral notebook or whatever, any way you want to. But as you do that research, take notes of what impresses you, what doesn't impress you,
Hmm.
what are the things about it that you think are cool or whatever, and just take a couple of weeks. So that's I think a great idea
Hmm.
of going forward. So good.
Sounds great.
So let me just give you a sense of my thoughts here, Anushka.
Mhm.
You know, very clearly, you are an intelligent young woman. You do extremely well in the classroom. You are, from all indications, your MCAT score is going to be a strong score. You've done a variety of really interesting things. You've done community service activities. You've done, you have a research experience,
Mm.
a lot of shadowing and volunteering and clinical activities. And so, all in all, and I get the sense from you that this isn't just a checkbox mentality that you're in,
Mhm.
that you're doing it, you're learning stuff from it, that you're getting stuff out of it, which is
Yeah.
certainly what we at Mapped, encourage students to do, and really think it benefits them so much when they really do it to get it inside their heart,
Mhm.
does that
Yeah.
make sense? You know what I'm
Yeah, for
saying here?
sure.
To really internalize it, learn from it, reflect on what you've done and what you learned, and I get a sense from you that that's what you're doing.
Thank
That
you.
you're not, okay, I'm going to do this activity so I can check that off the box, of my application or whatever.
Mhm.
So good. That's really positive. And so all in all, Anusha, I definitely think you're ready to apply. I'm giving you a total green light here. I think you've got the full. Just the full package of what I would expect and want to see from an applicant. I think if you do a strong job at your application materials, which I would fully
Mhm.
expect, and really get a good personal statement, and really keep up with the secondaries, and do a fine job in terms of the secondary essays and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And as long as you don't fall off your chair during the interview, or say something totally bizarre or whatever, then I just think the future looks good for you, Anushka.
Thank
It really I'm encouraged by applicants like you who really seem to be doing it for the right reasons, and doing it, and being thoughtful about it. That's a real key, being thoughtful. So
you. Mhm.
so
Thank
how
you
do you
so
feel
much.
about that?
I feel so much better now that, like, it's coming from you.
Right,
So, yeah, I
right.
really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
But I definitely think, this is this is definitely your year. I would definitely plan on applying, and you've got a good, it sounds like you've got a good plan in terms of how you want to do it. Apply early. That doesn't mean the
Mhm.
first day, but within the first few weeks or so of the application opening it up, go ahead and get everything done and all that. But
Mhm.
I would say you've got a good shot at getting some real attention from the medical schools, so good for you. It sounds like you're on your way.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Any other questions or thoughts or anything that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, so I just had a quick question about like letters of recommendation.
Sure.
So is there like a certain limit you think that letters of recommendation should be like capped off at, or should I like just try to get as many as I can in terms of
Well,
that?
so tell me about Ohio State. Do they have like a process or any kind of committee letter or anything like that?
I haven't actually looked into a committee letter or anything,
Okay.
so I'm not
Okay.
too sure about that. But
Okay. If yeah, and I would encourage you to check on that and see.
hmm.
Um, i- the reason I ask about that is often committee processes will have restrictions on the number of letters that you could get. So if you want to go through the
Okay.
committee process, it could be capped at a certain number of letters. In fact, it's pretty typical for
Hmm.
schools that have a process like that they will cap them. But I
Okay.
would say if you're not doing the committee letter, or if they don't have a committee letter process, then I would say around 4 or 5 letters is good. You definitely want
Okay.
a couple of faculty members that have had you in class.
Hmm.
Definitely, one of the physicians or a couple of the physicians that you've worked with would
Hmm.
be reasonable, and your PI for the research
Yeah.
opportunities that you've taken advantage of. That'd probably be another really good letter. Obviously, the key here is choosing people that know you well.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's a really important part. And encourage you to think about that and think about faculty members who really, have gotten to know you and can say more about you than just she
Hmm.
made an A in my class, or yes, she followed me around for the day, or whatever. You really want some deep stuff in there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I would say on its own, I would say 4 to 5 letters would be
For
a pretty typical and a sufficient number of letters to give the committee a sense of what people outside of yourself
hmm.
think about you. And I think 4 or 5 would do that.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Good. Well, Anushka, thank you for joining us on Am I Ready? And best wishes to you in the
Mm.
future. I hope it goes well. I suspect it will. And keep in touch with us if you would, and let us know how things are going.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, have a great rest of your day.